This episode of Destructoid is brought to you by the National Campaign Against Drunk Driving. On today's Destructoid show, we're going to predict the future and tell you all about the biggest video games of 2012. Crystal Ball, activate!
Welcome to Destructoid. I'm Tara Long.
And I'm Max Scoville.
Happy Wednesday, Max.
Happy Wednesday, Tara. I'll stop talking about that now. Promise.
Yeah, please do. Well, it's our last show of 2011. We are finally here. What an exciting time. 2011 was obviously an amazing year for gaming, and I have a feeling that 2012 is going to be even better. And no, I'm not just saying that because my job literally depends on it. Max and myself and a few of the other Destructoid editors rounded up some of our personal predictions for the next year, and we wanted to share them with you today. I'll start. Excellent. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk lately about the next generation of consoles, specifically the PS4 and the Xbox 720, which I hope to God is not called the Xbox 720. Of course, we gamers love getting excited about things and leaking rumors and stuff, but even amongst the rumors and leaked photos, Microsoft and Sony still have not confirmed anything yet. I would not be surprised, however, if they had a big unveiling as soon as E3 of next year. People know that a new generation of consoles is coming. It's just a matter of time now. And I can totally see that happening by 2012, for sure. Moving away from consoles, however, I also want to predict that next year will bring an unprecedented amount of bullshit for gamers to deal with. That shouldn't really come as a surprise to anyone, but specifically I see online passes becoming the norm, which it almost is now, but will most certainly lead to an inevitable decline in used game sales. I also see big companies like EA and Sony getting into even more trouble because of their shady legal practices. Hey, newsflash guys, putting a no-sue clause in your terms of service won't stop people from suing you. It's just gonna piss them off, so they'll want to sue you even more. And that's apparently exactly what's happened so far. So expect to see more of that next year, according to my predictions. Anyway, Max, that's enough of my ranting. What do you see in your crystal ball?
You don't have to make fun of me. You're better with the predictions than I am. I got a few, though. There are a lot of games coming out in the next year, and obviously we don't have time to go over all of them, but here are a few predictions. Grand Theft Auto 5 will be a massive success both commercially and critically and will cause some mild controversy in the mainstream media. You know, just like every other Grand Theft Auto release. The majority of Halo fans will be happy with Halo 4, while some of them will find things to complain about. Gamers who aren't fans of the Halo series will respond to the game's release with everything from mild curiosity to furious vitriol. You know, just like every other Halo release. Soul Calibur 5 will have great big titties flopping around everywhere, and I will continue to make jokes about the great big titties just flopping around everywhere. You know, just like every other Soul Calibur release.
Wow.
As far as new IPs go, I'm worried that Lollipop Chainsaw will be too Hollywood for fans of Suda51's games and too weird and Japanese for the mainstream Western market. Remember that movie Sucker Punch?
Yeah.
Well, I see that kind of reception happening. Also, I think Metal Gear Rising will be received moderately well, and the amount of hype and division it caused in Metal Gear fans will die down once everyone accepts the fact that it is a Metal Gear game in name only and otherwise much weirder.
Well, thank you for your very astute observations, Max. Our producer, Zach, actually had a prediction of his own that he wanted to share, which is that he thinks that Sony will announce the official PlayStation phone at next year's E3. Who knows? Perhaps you recall the PlayStation phone that we kept hearing about last year. It had all this hype surrounding it, and people were all excited and stuff, and eventually it just turned into the Xperia Play, which was, for all intents and purposes, completely underwhelming. Interestingly, though, Zach's theory is that Sony knew that the phone was crap all along, so rather than tag the PlayStation name onto a shitty device that nobody wants, they decided to just wait and stick around for something better. Here's where the backstory comes in, though. Around 10 years ago, Sony partnered with Ericsson to found Sony Ericsson, which had some mild success in the beginning, but kind of lost steam in recent years. Well, fast forward to 2 months ago, when Sony announced that they'd be buying out all of Ericsson's shares and taking complete control of the company. Now, rumor has it that Sony is going to announce at CES this year, which is like 2 or 3 weeks away now, that they are officially changing Sony Ericsson's name back to just Sony, you know, because it's just Sony now. which would set things up perfectly for a 100% Sony PlayStation phone, if you're keeping track. And now that they've got the PS Vita coming out, they totally have an incentive to improve the PlayStation Suite library, which was the main reason the Xperia Play sucked so much to begin with, is because they had no games in their library. So his theory does hold some stock to it.
Yeah.
I can kind of see where
I
he's
can see
going
that.
with that.
He's better at paying attention to
Yeah.
phones than I am.
At
I'm
the same
bad
time,
at
though,
phones.
I do think they plan on unveiling some new Xperia Play stuff at E3 next year. Like, I think they've already confirmed that, which is hilarious when you think about it. Because, like, who's sitting on the internet like, man, I can't wait to hear more news about that Xperia Play?
Yeah, I know like a bunch of people who have Xperia Plays.
Really?
And industry people, and they got them, and then they put them down in the corner of their desk, and they haven't really done a whole lot with them much otherwise, because really, what was happening with that thing? I could see, there's all this talk about mobile gaming going to phones, and the fact is, a phone is a thing you can justify as a work purchase. Like, oh, I need a new phone, which is why everyone has an iPhone. You have an iPhone. That's a thing you use on an everyday basis.
It makes me superior,
exactly,
quite frankly.
Right, you're the future. But if you can put that as a gaming platform and then push it out, that's also a phone. It's like.
There's a chance for success there.
Yeah.
And of course, these are just our predictions. There's so many things happening next year. My brain literally could not comprehend all of the things. But we also asked some of the Destructoid editors to share their predictions for 2012. Why don't we listen to some of those?
Hey everybody, Jonathan Holmes back again. My big prediction for gaming in 2012 is that Microsoft will finally enter the portable gaming market with a phone thing that will be like an iPhone / PS Vita, and
Gaming predictions for 2012? Well, they're more like gaming hopes. I hope that Nintendo has their stuff together this year so we can see the Wii U's potential. I mean, on paper, it looks like an upgraded Wii, higher res graphics, and a motion sensing iPad. And we don't know how that technology fits together. Now at E3's press conference last year, there were hints of that Nintendo genius that I feel like they were holding back on. So if there is a prediction in all this, it's that this year we'll see some of that. We'll see it at GDC, we'll see it at E3 and beyond. And Nintendo will finally show us why we need this next system and how it's not the same as the Wii. That's more of a hope than a prediction, but I feel like it needs to happen for Nintendo so they can step it up and be shoulder to shoulder with Sony and Microsoft. And maybe we'll finally see a day where third-party, high-profile releases come out on all three systems and not just the two. So we'll see.
Thank you, gentlemen. On that note, I'm going to take a quick second to thank our sponsor, and then we'll be back to talk about our most anticipated games of 2012. Attention, private citizens! The police will be out in full force from December 16th to January 2nd in a nationwide effort to crack down on impaired driving. If your idea of celebrating the holiday season is getting together with family and friends and sharing a bottle of champagne or three, you should know that just one too many drinks greatly increases the risk of a traffic accident. In 2009 alone, almost half of all adults killed in traffic accidents from ages 21 to 34 were impaired at the time. It's a strong message with a simple solution. Don't put yourself or others in danger. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Very true.
It's true.
Now,
especially around this time of year.
Back to the predictions.
Oh, yes.
Obviously, two things that were really big in 2011 were Skyrim and the PlayStation Vita. Skyrim's been out since November, and the Vita came out in Japan just a week and a half ago. So obviously, people are still excited about both of these things. But I'm interested to see what comes next. We know that DLC is in the works for Skyrim, and it's going to be coming to Xbox 360 first, according to Bethesda. But other than that, we don't know a whole lot. Oblivion's horse armor was kind of the beginning of the age of, I can't believe people paid money for this downloadable content, and I think Bethesda has grown out of that. If Fallout's DLC is any indication, I think we're going to be seeing numerous DLC packs that each focus on different aspects of Skyrim's gameplay. Some involving more combat, others sticking with storytelling and crafting, etc. We've seen that Bethesda rendered a good portion of Tamriel in Skyrim, though it wasn't polished or accessible in-game. It wouldn't surprise me to see DLC that involves exploring new or possibly familiar areas of the Elder Scrolls world. At the very least, if Skyrim's DLC doesn't allow players to ride dragons the way they can ride horses, or a flight ability via some kind of new spell or dragon shout, I will be horribly disappointed because I want to jump off of the throat of the world and glide about like some sort of majestic dragonborn fairy. As for the Vita, I think PlayStation's opened a lot of doors for innovation. I mean, the Vita has a D-pad, buttons, dual analog sticks, a multi-touch screen, as well as a multi-touch back panel, front and rear-facing cameras, and an accelerometer. I've spoken to a few devs about which platforms are best to make games for, and the word on the street is that Sony treats indie developers really well. The PS3 apparently isn't that much fun to work with, but again, going on hearsay. However, considering the only thing missing from the Vita's specs is a mouse and keyboard, I think it will attract the attention of a lot of young game designers who want to make some wacky shit we've never seen before. There's a lot of potential for innovation there. And on top of that, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we got a massive influx of iOS titles being ported over to the Vita, since it has a touchscreen and can allow for that. So.
That's true. Then it kind of begs the question, though, why are you playing iOS titles on a Vita instead of just an iOS? Unless you don't own an iOS.
I don't have an iOS phone.
I guess that's true,
Yeah.
but, you know, for like half the price, you could just get an iPod Touch or something. But, you know,
What if
the
you already
PS
have a
Vita
Vita?
will have offerings of its own, although they won't include 3D, which you neglected to mention, which is kind of a big thing. I know,
Oh,
that was a joke,
You're
you guys.
A card.
That was a joke.
You're a trip. What are you looking forward to, games-wise?
Games-wise, you know, we get a lot of questions like this on our live shows and stuff, and I can never think of stuff off the top of my head, so I formulated a list, starting with my absolute #1 most anticipated game, which is Borderlands 2, of course. I'm really pumped about The Darkness 2 also, which is coming out pretty early the next year, in February, I think. Diablo 3, Torchlight 2, also going to be great games, I'm sure. Lollipop Chainsaw, I'm curious to see how that one turns out. I don't know if I want to play it yet, but I'm interested to see where they go with it. BioShock Infinite, of course, is like a huge game that people are excited about. Journey is also something that we haven't heard of in a while, actually.
I have more than a feeling that Journey will be very successful.
All right, then.
That's a Boston song.
Yeah, I got that. On the indie side of things, I'm super excited for Fez, which was supposed to come out this year, but then got pushed back at the last minute. What is that look on your face for?
I was trying to think of more Journey jokes to make.
Just know your limits, Max, okay?
I'll stop.
Retro City Rampage,
Hell yeah.
also another game that should have been out way sooner, but I'm sure will be worth the wait. And
We're in that. We're in that game.
we are in that game. Reason enough to buy it. And last but not least, Word Fighter, which is the upcoming iPad, iPhone game from our friends at Feel Every Yummy, Gian Cruz. That'll be coming out in early February also, I think. So, yeah.
I see that. I can see that being a hit.
In the works.
Personally, I'm excited about GTA 5, though I'm worried about all the Pilates and yoga involved with the game, according to the trailer. Aliens, Colonial Marines, Touch My Katamari, and Escape Plan both look like really good PS Vita titles, and The Last of Us. I'm not one for zombie survival horror stuff, but that looks like a really cool game. Totally with you on Retro City Rampage, Fez, and Word Fighter, because we're pals with the people who make those, and they look like really fun games.
They do.
Our producer Zach says Prey 2 #1 with a bullet, and I'm totally with him on that. Prey 2 looks really, really badass. And if you checked out Prey 1 and you were kind of like, meh, look into Prey 2 right now. Just go watch shit about that, because that game looks fucking awesome. Far Cry 3 also and Mass Effect 3 obviously are going to be very successful.
Oh yeah. Mass Effect 3 is probably huge, I bet that's #1 on the public's list, I bet.
Well, it's because it was supposed to come out
Mass
last week.
Well, yeah, also that. But yeah, lots of good things to look forward to next year. Video games, of course, not the least of which is another rabble-rousing year of this fine internet television program.
Yeah.
This will be our last episode of 2011. We're going to be back in the studio on January 2nd, and I have no doubt, none at all, that next year will be the show's craziest year yet. So thank you guys for watching, sticking with us this whole time, and hopefully sharing us with your friends like a cheap hooker. Thanks to everyone, cast, crew, production, for helping make the show happen. And Max, here's to 2012 right here.
Word.
Have a safe and relaxing holiday, and we will see you guys next year.
Take it easy.